We are going to host Dr. Falk today in our podcast series, NextDental.
People are getting more skeptical because they understand and see the power of the technology.
How much of the data currently are validated?
The AI systems are currently oftentimes heavily biased. It might well be that in 10 years there's no need to be on site.
Is it AI going to take our place as a dentist?
I think we are already seeing it right now.
Are we expecting self-evolving softwares?
Yes, because these chatbots, as we know, they hallucinate. Can post photos of what I ate for lunch today, but I would never post my electronic health record. We will need to embrace the technology and make it work for us.
Hello, my name is Dr. Khalil Ibrahim, and I'm from UAE.
Dr. Khalil Karam is a digital transformation strategist. As a creator of the Moz concept in Fujairah, UAE, he integrates technology with aesthetic care to transform patient experiences, shaping the future of digital dentistry across the UAE.
We are going to host Dr. Falk today.
Dr. Falk Schwendicke is a professor at Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich and a global expert in AI and digital health and dentistry. He is the author of over 500 scientific publications and advises leading organizations including the WHO, FDI, and ISO on dental AI, diagnostics, and health systems.
In our podcast series, NextDental. Dr. Falk, welcome to UAE.
Thanks for having me.
Dr. Falk, as an AI expert, we are hearing a lot of things about AI, especially since the emergence of ChatGPT. And it's becoming as a culture of this era and its generation. It's like the music culture, your food culture is trending to be an AI. So everything's about the AI. So what's AI? It's about AI in dentistry and healthcare itself.
Well, first of all, I think it's important to define what AI is. So there's tons of definitions. One definition is it's what we do with machines, which we formerly did with our brain, so human recognition, seeing, talking, walking, and so on. And in dentistry, there are a wealth of applications for that, obviously. So one thing could be in diagnostics. This is what we did over the last years. A big focus was on image analysis in diagnostics, and I think we'll discuss this later on. But also speech analysis, text analysis is something which is becoming big. You mentioned ChatGPT as one of the drivers. These big new foundational models, the chatbots, they are also able to analyze medical texts, medical speech. They are able to converse with us, to talk to us, to talk to our patients maybe. So there are a lot of application. Of course, also when it comes later on to treatment planning and treatment conduct, thinking about CAD/CAM, for instances, automated implant planning or automated prosthetics planning. We see this already happening because we've been used to that in many of these CAD/CAM applications, but now the way we can do it is expanding, and at the end, AI will probably be at all steps of what we do in dental practices, and that's why it's so important to talk about it now and to understand it.
So I think it's AI is an alternative or it's not a substitute and an ultimate substitute to a human being, but it's going to take a lot of our tools, functions, application as well. So it's always when you are acquainting a new one in your team, you need to understand him. You need to know him better so you can start working with him. So I think this is what you are trying to say, that we need to understand the AI and how it's going to impact on our day-to-day dentistry. And you brought the thing of on different stages of our patient encounters. Now, I would like to know more about the beginnings of AI and dentistry as being one of the leaders and pioneers in the field of AI. So how it started and where you have reached in the map today?
Well, it all started basically 20 years ago with new models and new technologies being around, coming from Google, coming from Facebook, from all these big tech giants, and we're still using these technologies now in our medical applications. The first thing we saw in medicine was happening in dermatology and in the eye doctors, basically, where you can use fundus images or skin images to analyze, for example, for melanoma. That was about 7 years ago, and then everything happened very fast. Once this worked in 1 or 2 use cases, everybody was jumping on it, mainly with one focus: image analysis. That was the thing which we did for the last 6-7 years in all medical fields, including dentistry. Give me an image and I analyze it, mainly using machine learning, so the technology which learns on itself by being provided with thousands or 10,000 of examples. What is a caries lesion on a radiograph, for instances?
No, I mean, what are the driving? You said it went very fast since then, in the past 7 years, and the technologies usually takes decades to get mature enough and have an impact on our day-to-day life. So, what was the boosters there, or the driving force of implementing AI on day-to-day life in dentistry and healthcare itself? Is it related to the computing powers? Is it relating to speed of internet? So it will be very good if we just understand the impact of different developments and we connect them together.
It's basically three things which are not necessarily only applying to medicine. It's also in everyday life and all the normal AI we are using in our phone or wherever. It's data, the explosion of data, mainly related to the Internet of Things, social media. So we are generating tons of data. Just for imagination, humankind is producing as much data in a day today as we produced from our onset until the year 2008. So this is crazy. We produce a crazy amount of data, and that's one of the things we need to use if we want to build AI systems as powerful as these big chatbots. The second thing is we needed compute. We needed mainly graphic cards. Everybody was talking about NVIDIA some months ago being the most valuable company of the world. That's exactly why they are so valuable, because they are producing the technology which we need to train these huge AI models. And of course, the third thing I already mentioned, we use different software approaches. We use machine learning and deep learning, so specific ways where software it trains itself, basically. It learns itself what is on an image or what contains a certain text.
Are we expecting self-evolving softwares?
Yes.
It will come in some point that we'll have a customizable softwares that can help us in improving our ecosystems?
Absolutely. We are seeing this already beyond medicine and all the other fields. We have what we call dynamic AI, so self-training AI. Whenever a user is using it, it improves a tiny bit, so that at the end, after a year of being distributed into the market, these systems get really good. In medicine, it's a bit more tricky. Why? Because our software systems are regulated. So there's a bit of an entrance hurdle for dynamic AI, because manufacturers, they usually need to submit tests, metrics to, I don't know, FDA or whatsoever. And you can't change this on a day-to-day basis. So that's a little bit slower, I think, because we have more difficulties in regulating dynamic versus static AI. But in the long run, we will also see that in medicine.
Now, Doctor, when it comes to the amount of data, now it's very important for the AI machine learning is the amount of data and the quality of the data. And being in open source, this all machine learning, there is an ethical question. How much are the data currently are validated in AI industry, either in dentistry or healthcare?
I think there are two sides to the coin. The first is, where do these data come from? How well are they protected? How can we protect patients' confidentiality and data security? This is one side of the element, which obviously makes it hard in medicine, and especially in dentistry, where everybody already has the notion dental data is used for forensic purposes. I can re-identify people with using dental data. That makes it hard to access dental data because they are very well shielded by data protection considerations. On the other hand, what we need to make very, very sure, and at the moment we're not talking about this too much, is what kind of data are we feeding into the AI? How robust, how generalizable is the resulting AI? We know from a broad number of studies in the non-medical field, but also in medicine, that AI systems are currently oftentimes heavily biased. They learn social biases, they learn epidemiological biases, so they are not generalizable. They don't work the same on all populations. And if, for example, I want to sell a certain software system here in Dubai or in Germany, I would need to check, does it work in Dubai or does it work in Germany? Because maybe it comes from Korea or it comes from the US, and maybe it has learned inherent patterns in data which are not applicable to the population here or back home where I'm from.
Doctor, very philosophical question. Now, when it comes to human intelligence or cognitive development of a teenage, like we have this spurt of few years that they start, once they learn how to learn, they start learning very fast. There is a spike of how they evolve. Are we going to see such a model in AI?
I think we are already seeing it right now. We are in the phase, because you said it takes usually, and it's true, for most technologies, maybe 1 or 2 decades to mature. With AI, it took how long? 3 years, 4 years? We saw the first applications in dentistry in 2020, and now we have probably 50, 100, maybe even more applications, and they are getting much better in a very short time, because these technologies, we've learned how to master them. And at the moment, it's not so much the software or hardware, it's rather what we already discussed, the access to data, getting balanced data, which is maybe slowing us down a bit, but we are already on an exponential path.
Now, there is a very interesting question. Now, we have data feeding resources, and that depends mainly on the capturing devices. Now, when it comes to dentistry, we know that digital dentistry is one of the feeding resources to the machine learning. The question will be, are we having enough adoption of digital dentistry that allow developers of AI and machine learning to do the proper machine learning process?
You're absolutely right. Access to data, access to diverse data is highly important. I think dentistry has one advantage. We are already quite a digital discipline compared to many other medical disciplines. Most of our workflow can at least be digitalized. It's not yet in all practices, but I think especially when it comes to medical electronics records or when it comes to radiographs, most practices, at least in high-income countries, they are already digitalized. Maybe not with regards to the CAD/CAM workflow, not everybody is using that, but we are on a good path of being able to provide a sufficiently broad amount of data to train AI. I think so.
I think AI is, in a way, is providing or progressing the automation of our day-to-day processes. Now, how reliable, where have we reached with the AI in sense of reliability on doing automated comprehensive process like segmentations, identifications of novel structures? So where is it exactly now?
I think these things do work already for the more common use cases. So for example, in 2D or 3D imaging, you can do segmentations of anatomical structures. You can do identification of caries lesions or apical lesions or periodontal bone loss. What we can't do yet is the more rare conditions, identifying them, discriminating them, because they are rare. So they also don't occur very often in our data sets. And learning them is a hard thing for AI, because if you only have something occurring in 0.1% of all images, AI will have a hard time. So for most things, they do work already. When it comes to the question of reliability, can we really nearly trust them without looking in depth? I think there we still have a hard time because of two things. First of all these AI systems in dentistry and medicine are assisting systems. That's how they're regulated. That's how they are approved by, I don't know, the European Union, the FDA, or any other regulatory body. So they are not supposed to work autonomously. We just discussed it up front, that the term of augmented AI, they help us in getting better, but the final say is with us. This is one thing. And the second thing is we need to make sure that these systems are tested and controlled in a way that I, as a consumer, as a provider, or maybe I, as a patient, can really double-check data on the internet about this product and really understand how good does it work in a fair test. And at the moment, that's impossible, because most of these systems, none of the data they have submitted to regulatory bodies is ever published. And even that, they test it on their own data sets. So you can give me 5 systems and I would test them on one data set. They would perform very differently, whilst when they test it on their own data set, it might be exactly the opposite, their performance. So we need to come to a stage where we test them on one benchmarking data set and perform a fair and true evaluation. That's something which we lack at the moment. That's something, for instance, as we are developing at the initiative at the World Health Organization.
Very interesting to know. One thing, when it's come on the consumer levels, the patient level, I have read an article that the trust toward AI, it's decreased over the past 1 year due to certain reasons. And one of them that they believe that AI is going to take over human rules. And that's something, is our day-to-day discussions. Is it AI going to take our place as a dentist, as a lab technicians, or as a healthcare providers? That's a big question. I think if you can shed some insights over this.
Well, I think, first of all, people are getting more skeptical because they understand and see the power of the technology. We've seen that over the last 12 months that things are developing so fast. If you think about these chatbots, how they talk to us, if you think about these videos generated by AI, you can't discriminate it any longer from real life videos which I take with a camera. It's crazy. So that's what scares people, because they get a hunch, oh, this is really being very powerful and it's becoming even more powerful. Will it mean that we as a dental profession will be automated? I don't think so. I think in most instances, it will be helper functions. I don't think we will see autonomous AI. And I think our job is so diverse, it means a lot of communication with the patient. There's a lot of applications which are diverse that I'm not afraid of AI taking away my job. What I think, however, is there are a number of auxiliary elements to dentistry, and you mentioned lab technicians, for instances. This is a big example where we saw with CAD/CAM that work is moved away from the dental technician into industry, into technology. And I think AI will probably facilitate this even more and speed it up even more, that some processes around dentistry will be even more automated. Yes,
I think I see it as an opportunity, because it is, like we are facing a lag of the professional or very skillful lab technicians. So when it comes to the skills, do we need that much of a skills? Because it's not for my generation or your generation of dentists, the upcoming generation of dentists, how skillful they need to be when they are dealing with AI, because we used to memorize a lot of informations. So it's always been a question, should I memorize and have this background, or I let it go a little bit so I depend more on the AI? So that's questions there. So how the new generation of dentists, the Z generation, going to be in presence of AI?
Yeah, I think we can't hide from this. This is like 50 years ago, people tried to ban computers from classrooms in schools and so on. And this won't work. We will need to embrace the technology and make it work for us in education, also in dental practices. What we need, however, is, and this is where it gets a bit more complicated, if I want to be using that technology in a critical way, I need to understand it, and I also need to know, does it do it in the right way? I give you an example with all these chatbots. The students, they can now write very nice long essays using these chatbots without doing anything. And they even read well. Probably they are written better with regards to style and orthography than most students would write it. But what they need to do is they need to check it afterwards, because these chatbots, as we know, they hallucinate. They just make up stuff. And it sounds very plausible. They even make up references in these essays, which is, the article looks like a really good scientific article, but when you check the references, they don't exist. And to do this, to appraise this and to use this in a critical way, you nevertheless need the skills and the knowledge, because otherwise all you're left to do is trust these things blindly. And this is something we need to avoid. We need to remain critical, because otherwise this risk of automation bias is very high. You remember in the 90s when people used their cars and their sat-nav and drove into lakes and tube stations because they just trusted their sat-nav so much. This is exactly what we are facing at the moment with these AI systems. And we need to make the users aware of the risks and the limitations of these systems.
Now, Doctor, there is an ethical question. We know that AI evolution or development will always come from feeding the data. Now, we are living in an era where the privacy and the data sharing is not like 1 decade back. We have seen changes on socio-psychological level that people start giving away their information much easier. So what's the impact of such behavior changes on AI itself? Is it needed, or we are going to see more of these type of changes in future?
Well, I think that, of course, people using social media, they give away their data very freely. I'm not so sure if they do it with healthcare data, though. This is a big difference. I mean, I can post photos of what I ate for lunch today, but I would never post my electronic health record. I think we will still have quite regulated areas in healthcare and when it comes to data in healthcare. So I'm not so sure if this flexibility, which we see in other fields, is necessarily applicable to our field. And I think the opposite is currently happening. People are getting a bit more skeptical about giving away healthcare data. And what I rather see is that governments have understood, if they want to make healthcare affordable in the long run, they need to develop tools using AI. And that's why at the moment it's very interesting that I see, especially, I heard that it's the same here, but also in Europe, for instance, is governments pushing for data being accessible to train AI and further develop healthcare systems.
That triggers a very important thing, because we know that each society or a public or a country has their specific cultural, biological differences. So are we expecting customization of AI based on different segmentations?
For manufacturers, this is a nightmare because they need to develop different AIs for all different regions. From my point of view, maybe that would be the way, because it goes into a really nearly philosophical question. What I've learned during the last years at our initiatives at the World Health Organization is people are all dentists, but when you give them an X-ray, depending on where they're trained and what kind of philosophy they follow, they see different things. A dentist from the US looks very differently at an X-ray compared to a dentist maybe from here or a dentist from Scandinavia. So our background, our philosophy of how we approach dental diseases and so on plays a big role into how we will probably also interact with AI. So maybe, yes, maybe we need to customize AI to specific regions, countries, philosophies, healthcare systems. Maybe we even need to do it to customize it to our own needs, because we also know from research, for example, we did that people employ the same AI software in a very different way, and they come to very different outcomes using the same software. So maybe we need to tailor the software even to the need of the individual user.
Now, a very different aspect of AI, Doctor. Now, we do know that AI is a part of our process, or let's say it takes over on process of how we think. So we have our hand skills, and then we have our cognitive skills. The AI is going to take our cognitive thinking, or it will help us in that part. Now, what is the robotics when it comes to robotics? Are we going to see some robots, dentist robots, very soon in public areas supported by AI? So that's something is very interesting.
I think, yes. We are already seeing the first prototypes. There is a prototype developed by a startup in the US, as you may know, where the father of Mr. Zuckerberg invested quite of his money. So this robot, the drilling robot, I would call it, that's already something which people work on. I'm not so sure if this is the best use case, though. I think if I would have, 10 million euros on top of it and I would need to spend it somewhere, I would probably spend it on the assistant robot instead. The nursing robot, getting away the cheek, sucking the saliva away, maybe handing me instruments from the table behind me, because this is far easier to reach, I think, because it's not a 50 micrometers procedure. It's something where you have a little bit more leeway mechanically, and it's something where in many, many healthcare systems of the world, we see a massive shortage of assistant staff. In Germany, we don't find dental nurses any longer. It's not so much the dentist being the problem, it's the nurses. So yes, I think we will see these robots in different application fields, and I'm curious as to how that will change dental practice. But again, I don't think that this will mean dentists will be unemployed in 20 or 30 years.
So is there any expectations that we will have an operation dentist who's operating multiple line productions of robotics and then doing very specific tasks there? It could be.
It could be. I mean, if you think it through, what we are facing at the moment, also when it comes to augmented and virtual reality and all these applications, it might well be that in 10 years there's no need to be on site when you're treating a patient operatively. Maybe you are in your office with some kind of augmented reality or virtual reality interface. The robot is doing what you're doing on your desk. Maybe you can partially automate it and treat several patients in parallel. We don't know. This is far ahead in the future, and it's a bit scary, but it is possible. It's conceivable.
Doctor, I would like to thank you because we are already running out from the time. So thank you, Dr. Falk, for this insightful information about AI. I hope we can host you in future with more questions. Thank you, everyone, for following us, and hope you can subscribe and follow us for more of these interesting podcast series.
Want to use AI in your clinic? Try Remedico EMR, sponsor of this episode. They are pioneering AI for dental clinics. Go to remedico.app and request a free demo now. Remedico, software for modern dental clinics powered by AI. Hey, and don't miss next episode. Search NextDental one word, no spaces on all major podcast platforms, and click subscribe.